If you fish from the bank, there's a good chance you're warning fish before your lure ever reaches them. The usual beginner instinct is to walk straight to the edge, look across the water, and cast as far as possible. But fish often feed within a few feet of shore, especially around grass, shade, docks, rocks, and undercut banks. By the time you make that long cast, your footsteps, shadow, and movement may have already pushed the closest fish away. Here's the skill you're going to learn: how to approach a bank, fish the closest water first, and expand your search without turning a promising spot into a danger zone. The simple routine is quiet to loud, near to far, and shallow to deep. You won't need special camouflage or expensive gear. You just need to change the order in which you approach, cast, and adjust. Mistake number 1 is walking to the edge before you look. Treat the bank as part of the fishing spot, not merely the place where you stand. A bass may be tucked beneath shoreline grass, a trout may be holding beside a current seam, or a bluegill may be hovering under a dock almost directly below you. When you reach a promising area, stop about 6 to 10 feet back if the terrain allows. Before taking another step, scan the near water. Look for a dark patch beside a drop-off, an opening in the weeds, shade beneath a branch, bait fish flickering at the surface, or a small swirl that appears and disappears. Make your first cast from that position. After you've covered the close water, move forward slowly. That one habit lets you fish water that most beginners accidentally walk over. Mistake number 2 is ignoring your shadow and outline. A fish doesn't need to recognize a person to become cautious. A fast shadow passing overhead can look like a bird or another predator. Before stepping onto an exposed point, dock, or bare shoreline, check the sun. If your shadow stretches toward the target, stay farther back, crouch slightly, and keep the rod low instead of waving it above the water. Use whatever cover is already there. Stand beside a bush instead of in front of it. Approach an overhanging tree from the shaded side and avoid placing your full outline against the bright sky. Cloudy weather and stained water make this less critical, but they don't make you invisible. Here's an easy rule. If you can clearly see a fish in shallow water, assume that fish can detect you too. Back away, lower your profile, and cast from outside its direct view. Mistake number 3 is announcing your arrival through vibration. Heavy footsteps, a tackle box dropped on hard ground, pliers hitting a wooden dock, or a cooler lid slamming shut can all send vibration into the water. You don't have to tiptoe dramatically. Shorten your steps, place your feet deliberately, and set your gear down gently. Prepare before you reach the best target. Choose your first lure, attach it, loosen the landing net, and put your pliers somewhere you can reach them. If you're fishing with a friend, don't both crowd the edge while digging through bags. Let one person fish while the other stays a few steps back. Quiet preparation means your first cast reaches fish that are still behaving normally. Mistake number 4 is making too much visible movement once you're in position. Beginners sometimes worry about wearing the perfect color, but sudden motion is usually the bigger issue. Repeatedly standing up, crouching down, switching rods, and reaching into a backpack beside clear, shallow water creates a large, unnatural silhouette. Make smooth movements and keep the rod below shoulder height when possible. If you need to change lures or reorganize your bag, step behind a tree or back away from the water first. Polarized sunglasses are helpful because they reduce glare and let you see weeds, cover, and fish more clearly. Just remember that they help you see the fish. They don't stop the fish from seeing you. Mistake number 5 is sending your first cast toward the middle. The first cast should usually cover the closest useful water. If a strip of weeds follows the shoreline, cast parallel to it. If there's shade under an overhanging tree, run the lure along the outer edge of that shade. If the bank is undercut, keep the lure close to the edge instead of pulling it quickly into open water. A cast straight toward the middle may cross the productive zone for only a second. A parallel cast can keep your lure beside cover for most of the retrieve. Begin with a cast a rod length or 2 from shore, then widen the angle with each cast. On a point, fan your casts across the water like the hands moving around a clock. Cover the near side, the end of the point, and then the deeper water beyond it. Near to far protects the fish closest to you before a long line or hooked fish disturbs them. Mistake number 6 is landing the lure directly on the fish. Suppose you see a swirl beside a stump. Your instinct may be to hit that exact circle, but a lure crashing onto a fish can send it away. When there's room, cast beyond the target and retrieve through it. Beside a weed edge, land in open water past the weeds and bring the lure alongside them. Near a dock post, land just beyond the post so the lure enters the strike zone naturally. The angle of the cast matters too. A high overhead cast makes the lure drop steeply and hit like a stone. A low sidearm cast sends it forward on a flatter path and usually creates a softer entry. Just before the lure touches down, slow it slightly. On a spinning reel, lightly touch the line with your index finger. On a bait caster, ease pressure onto the spool with your thumb. Practice this in open water before trying it beneath branches. Accuracy isn't simply hitting a target. It's choosing a landing point that lets the lure arrive without alarming what you're trying to catch. Mistake number 7 is using more weight and power than the situation requires. A heavy sinker crashing into calm, shallow water can sound like a rock. Oversized line and a stiff rod can also make a small lure harder to control and more likely to slap the surface. Use the lightest weight that still lets you cast accurately. Feel the lure and control it. For many ponds and small lakes, a medium or medium-light spinning rod is an easy starting point. That doesn't mean lighter is always better. Thick weeds, large fish, and heavy cover may require a stronger line and a more powerful rod. The rule is to match the gear to the cover, not to bring extra power just because it feels safer. After the lure lands, watch the line. A large loose loop can slap the surface, pull the bait sideways, and hide a bite. With a spinning reel, close the bail by hand, point the rod toward the lure, and reel just enough to create gentle contact. Don't immediately jerk the line tight. If the bait is sinking, watch where the line enters the water. A twitch, sideways slide, or fall that stops too early may mean a fish has picked it up. Mistake number 8 is repeating the same noisy cast over the same fish. More casts don't automatically create more chances. 10 identical splashes beside one stump can teach a fish that something is wrong. Give every cast a purpose. Try the near side of the stump, the far side, and an angle that carries the lure behind it. Change the retrieve speed once. If you get no response, move to another target and let that water rest. In a river or stream, use the current instead of fighting it. Cast upstream or across the flow and let the lure travel naturally past the slower water behind a rock, log, or bridge support. That protected pocket is called an eddy, and fish often hold near its edge waiting for food. Repeatedly dragging a lure against the current on the same unnatural path is both noisy and less convincing. This is where the quiet to loud rule becomes useful. Start with a subtle lure and a controlled retrieve beside the closest cover. If that produces nothing, widen your cast into deeper water. Only then add more flash, vibration, speed, or sound. A louder presentation can be excellent in stained water, wind, or low visibility, but beginning quietly preserves your best opportunities. When a fish follows without biting, don't change everything at once. Change one variable. Slow the retrieve, use a smaller lure, or try a different color. If you change the lure, speed, depth, and location together, you won't know what helped. If you see no bait fish, no surface activity, and no response around several good targets, location is probably the problem. Moving 20 yards is often more useful than changing lures 6 times. Mistake number 9 is entering the water too early. Waiting can improve your casting angle, but your boots also stir mud, move weeds, and occupy the shallow route fish may be using. Fish everything you can reach from dry ground first. Sometimes the fish you're trying to reach are sitting where you were about to step. If you eventually need to wade, enter away from the target and move slowly. Watch for soft mud, slippery rocks, current, and sudden drop-offs, and follow the local access rules. In clear water, look behind you. If you're pushing a muddy cloud toward the cover, stop and let it settle. One careful step may improve your angle. 5 unnecessary steps may erase the advantage. Mistake number 10 is charging into the spot as soon as you snag. When the lure sticks, stop pulling. Constant pressure can bury the hook deeper or bend a branch until it snaps back through the water. Walk sideways along the bank and gently pull from the opposite angle. Sometimes the lure will back out along the same path it entered. If the snag is close and safe to reach, a lure retriever can help. If freeing the lure requires dragging a branch or entering the water, except that the immediate area may need time to settle. Check the recovered line for rough spots, retie if it's damaged, and fish another piece of cover before returning. Never risk deep water, strong current, unstable banks, or a bad fall to save a lure. The same calm approach matters after you hook a fish. Don't sprint to the edge and let it thrash through every nearby target. Keep steady pressure and guide it toward a clear landing area. Have your net and pliers ready before you cast. If the fish surges, let the rod bend and allow the drag to release line instead of clamping down harder. Land the fish smoothly, handle it according to local rules, and move away from the edge before reorganizing. A controlled landing can leave the rest of the spot fishable. If the action stops, you probably haven't ruined the entire day. Move quietly to the next piece of cover and let the first area rest. Look for one useful change rather than staring at featureless water. Weeds meeting an open pocket, shade beneath a dock, darker water beside a drop-off, or wind pushing insects and bait toward one bank. Wind can hide some of your movement, but it also makes casting and line control harder. When you're learning, practice on the protected side, then try the wind-blown bank once you can keep control of the lure and line. On your next trip, keep the routine simple. Prepare one rod and one dependable lure before approaching the water. Stop 6 to 10 feet back and scan the shoreline. Check your shadow, lower your outline, and walk with deliberate steps. Cast beside the nearest cover first, then widen from shallow water toward deeper water. Land beyond obvious targets and retrieve through them. Make a few purposeful casts from different angles. If fish follow, change one thing. If you see no signs of life, move. You don't have to become invisible. You just need to stop warning fish before they've had a fair chance to see your lure. Remember the order: quiet to loud, near to far, and shallow to deep. Use that sequence at every new stretch of bank, and you'll fish more useful water, make better adjustments, and give yourself more chances before the fish know you're there.